Welcome to the deep dive. We're diving deep into SpaceX today.
SpaceX.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've probably heard snippets about SpaceX in the news and stuff, but today we're going to give you the focused view.
Like the big picture.
The big picture of their impact on the space industry.
The space industry, right?
Think of this as your shortcut.
Your cheat sheet.
Yeah, cheat sheet.
Yeah.
To understanding their recent flurry of activity and their ambitious plans for the future.
Absolutely. And what I think is really fascinating for you to consider is the sheer range of things that SpaceX is currently involved in.
Right. It's not just one thing.
No, it's like a whole portfolio.
Yeah.
Like they're reliably resupplying the International Space Station.
The ISS.
Yeah, the ISS.
Yeah.
They're building a global internet network, and they're even pushing the boundaries of human spaceflight.
Yeah, and to bring all of this into focus for you, we've looked at a really engaging conversation between two space enthusiasts.
Two space buffs.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a great way in because it captures the excitement and highlights the key happenings in a way that's easy to follow.
Yeah, very accessible.
Very accessible. So our mission here is to take those insights and present them to you clearly.
Yeah, synthesize it.
Yeah, synthesize it and add our own perspective to really bring it all into focus for you.
Sound good.
Okay, so let's unpack this, starting with something fundamental. How SpaceX keeps the International Space Station supplied.
Yeah, so to appreciate the scale of this,
Yeah.
you got to consider the 31st commercial resupply mission, which launched back on November 4th of last year.
Wow, 31.
31.
That's a lot.
Yeah, so this wasn't a one-off. It really underscores how these missions have become like a continuous and essential pipeline for the work being done on the ISS.
Yeah.
And the success of these 31 missions isn't just about volume. It's about their mastery of reusable rocket technology and increasingly efficient launch operations.
Right.
So they're fundamentally changing the logistics of space station maintenance.
31 missions that really hits home how integral SpaceX has become to keeping the space station operational. You know, it's not just about delivering a few spare parts.
Yo.
These missions are carrying crucial scientific experiments, the essentials for the astronauts, food, water, all that, and vital equipment to keep the station running.
Absolutely.
What stands out to you about this frequency of missions?
Well, what's particularly interesting is the reliability they've demonstrated. It's gone from being like this novel capability to a routine yet incredibly important service, and it raises an important question, I think.
What's that?
What does it say about the evolution of the space industry when a private company becomes such a dependable partner for a major international endeavor like the ISS?
Yeah, it's a huge change.
Yeah, it is.
So now, shifting our focus beyond Earth orbit for a second.
Okay.
SpaceX has some truly vast ambitions with the Starlink satellite constellation.
Oh, yeah, Starlink.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've likely heard the name, but the sheer numbers involved are quite staggering.
Yeah, they're mind-boggling.
They're mind-boggling. So help us to kind of break down the scale of this.
Okay, so to grasp the ambition, you have to think about the goal, providing global internet access.
Yeah, to everyone.
To everyone, everywhere.
Wow.
And the scale of the deployment reflects this. We're talking about almost 8,100 satellites launched to date, with over 7,000 of those still operational as of March 24th, 2025.
7,000.
Yeah.
That's just an incredible number.
And for you to understand, like, the complexity of that deploying and managing over 7,000 operational satellites in various low Earth orbits requires some really sophisticated autonomous systems for collision avoidance and orbital maintenance.
Right.
So it's a significant engineering feat in itself.
Yeah, the analogy our source used, building a highway in space, really helps to visualize this massive infrastructure they're creating.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. What are the implications of this kind of network?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, it's not just about faster streaming or, being able to, watch your videos seamlessly. It's about reliable internet access, reaching every corner of the globe. So that has huge implications for education.
Yeah.
Communication and economic development in remote areas that are currently underserved.
Yeah, the possibilities are really endless.
They are. And it raises another important question.
Yeah.
How might this global connectivity reshape our world in the coming years?
Yeah, that's a big one.
It is a big one.
Okay, so SpaceX isn't just moving cargo. They're also deeply involved in human spaceflight.
Yeah, of course.
The recent return of the Crew 9 mission really brings that into sharp focus.
So the Crew 9 mission, which landed back on Earth on March 18th, 2025, after an extended stay on the ISS, is a prime example.
So astronauts Suni Williams and Butch Wilmore ended up spending more time on the ISS than initially expected due to those delays with Boeing's Starliner program.
Right, this Starliner.
Yeah, and here's where it gets really interesting. SpaceX stepped in
They did.
to help.
Yeah, so their Dragon capsule successfully brought the astronauts home safely.
Safely back to Earth.
Yeah, and this not only highlights SpaceX's capabilities in human spaceflight, but also positions them as a really reliable partner for NASA, especially when unforeseen circumstances arise. It really underscores their growing maturity as a provider of human spaceflight services.
Yeah.
And it raises a question.
Okay.
What does it signify when a commercial entity becomes such a vital part of ensuring the safety of astronauts in space?
Yeah, almost like they've become the dependable backup plan.
Yeah, the go-to.
The go-to, which is a significant shift in the landscape of space travel.
It is a big shift.
Now, speaking of things lighting up the sky, which you might have seen or heard about, there was that space spiral phenomena.
Oh, yeah, the space spiral.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool.
That was pretty cool. So the Falcon 9 launch on March 24th, 2025, carrying a U.S. government payload.
Which is essentially the cargo or equipment being transported into space.
Yeah.
Created quite a visual spectacle.
Yeah, reports came in from across Europe.
Yeah, all over.
All from England all the way to Eastern Europe of this glowing spiral.
Crazy.
It sounds like something straight out of a science fiction film.
Right.
What was the explanation for this cosmic swirl?
Well, essentially, it's a result of the rocket venting its leftover frozen fuel at a very high altitude.
Okay.
And this mesmerizing visual effect is primarily due to the venting and subsequent freezing of residual RP-1 propellant, which then disperses into a cloud of ice crystals that reflect sunlight, creating that swirling appearance.
So an unplanned light show?
Yeah, an accidental light show.
For much of Europe, courtesy of a SpaceX launch.
Courtesy of SpaceX.
While these unexpected spectacles capture public attention, SpaceX's long-term vision extends far beyond our planet's atmosphere. We're talking, of course, about Mars.
Mars, yeah.
Elon Musk's ambition to send a mission to Mars is perhaps their most talked about and audacious goal.
Definitely.
And the timelines being discussed are remarkable.
They're mind-blowing.
Mind-blowing. Our source mentioned a potential mission by the end of 2026.
Yeah.
And a human landing as early as 2029.
Sooner than we think.
Yeah, that timeline feels incredibly fast.
It does. For context, consider the historical pace of space exploration. To be talking about human landings on Mars within the next few years is really mind-blowing.
It is.
And it speaks to the rapid advancements that SpaceX is driving.
It really does.
Yeah.
But with this rapid growth and these grand ambitions, it's natural for questions and concerns about the broader impact to arise.
Absolutely.
So what are some of those concerns?
Well, the increasing influence of SpaceX and the potential for an overconcentration of power in the space industry are valid points of discussion.
Yeah.
As they become such a dominant player, it's important to consider the implications for competition and innovation in the long run.
Yeah, because competition is good. It drives innovation.
Absolutely.
And it's not just about market dominance. There's also been mention of the intersection of private enterprise and public interest in space exploration.
Yeah.
Particularly concerning government contracts.
Yeah.
It's a complex area.
It is a complex area, and those conversations will likely continue as SpaceX's role evolves.
Right.
It raises important questions about the balance between private ambition and public good in space exploration.
Yeah, so on a more technical front, the journey to Mars and even just more consistent Earth launches isn't always without its hurdles.
Of course not.
And we've seen that with the development of the Starship rocket.
The Starship, yeah, which is central to their Mars ambitions, has experienced several test failures.
Yeah, a few explosions. But, you know, these can look dramatic, but they're often a crucial part of the learning and iteration process in such a challenging field. Yeah, you're pushing the very limits of what's possible.
Absolutely.
Which inevitably involves some setbacks along the way.
It does, yeah, it does.
Our source called it a super tricky field.
Super tricky, yeah.
Which seems like an accurate description.
Yeah, I'd agree.
These failures, though, they might seem like steps backward, actually provide invaluable data that can lead to significant redesigns and improvements.
It's all part of the process.
That's all part of pushing the boundaries of what's achievable.
You got it.
Okay, so taking a step back, looking at the bigger picture, what's the overall impact of SpaceX on the space industry as a whole?
I think their impact has been truly transformative.
Yeah.
They've undeniably made space more accessible and, crucially, more affordable.
More affordable.
Yeah, through innovations like reusable rockets.
Yeah.
So this has opened up opportunities for a wider range of companies and accelerated the pace of development across the entire sector.
It's like one company significantly lowering the cost of air travel.
Yeah,
That's a good analogy.
Yeah, opening up new possibilities for exploration and commerce.
Exactly.
So it's like they've democratized access to space
In a way, yeah.
in a way that was hard to even imagine just a couple of decades ago.
Yeah, it's amazing to see.
It is, and it's clearly captured the imagination of a lot of people.
Oh, absolutely.
Hasn't it?
As our source noted, they've inspired a whole new wave of space nerds.
A whole new wave.
Yeah, which is fantastic because that renewed public interest and enthusiasm is vital for the long-term growth and support of space exploration.
It is, yeah.
It's really important.
Yeah, so from those routine resupply trips to the ISS, the constantly growing network of Starlink satellites, all the way to that incredible dream of putting humans on Mars.
Yeah.
It really feels like all of these different projects are interconnected parts of a much larger endeavor.
I think they are. SpaceX isn't just focused on one single area. Their diverse projects are mutually reinforcing, driving innovation, and constantly pushing the boundaries of what's possible in spaceflight.
Yeah.
They've firmly established themselves as a leader in this really exciting new era of space exploration.
Okay, so we've taken a good deep dive into SpaceX today, covering everything from those essential ISS resupply missions and the expanding web of Starlink satellites to the return of Crew 9, the intriguing space spiral, and those incredible ambitions for Mars, while also touching on some of the real-world challenges and the discussions around their growing influence.
We've covered a lot of ground.
We've covered a lot.
Provided you with a comprehensive overview of the key activities and future outlook for this really dynamic company.
Yeah. So as we bring this deep dive to a close, here's a final thought to consider. Thinking about the rapid advancements we've discussed today and the significant challenges that still lie ahead, what single aspect of SpaceX's endeavors do you find most compelling or raises the most questions in your mind about the future of space exploration?
It's a big question.
That's a big question.
Yeah.
It's a truly fascinating time to be watching it all unfold.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.
See you guys then.